There is a growing understanding that today's teenagers or adolescents, as we choose to call them, live in a more dynamic world where they're subjected to a number of social, economic, and even environmental stresses, hence having an effect or pressure on their mental health and mental status. However, conversations around this have been met with a bit of skepticism, and we do not really talk about it because of the nature it brings. And that's why today we want to talk about how mothers can handle and help their teenage children prevent anxiety and depression. Welcome to Women Series, where we capture developments and stories that impact women. I am Ayomide Oguntoye. Just like I said, today we will be talking about mental health as it affects children, and most especially, how do mothers come to play in this regard? And I have with me Ani Omoshalewa Akhigbe. I love that name so much. A teenage children and mental health counselor. She's joining me today on the set. Hello, good day. How are you doing?
Hello, Ayo. How are you?
Very well, thank you. You seem a little bit laid back. Is it because of the conversation?
Yes.
That we're about to have?
Yes.
Do you take it seriously?
Yes, I do.
All right.
I do.
Yeah, so just to lay a background to this conversation, I was at the salon, and we all know that, I mean, there's this note that comes with women being in the salon and conversations that spur up when you are, I mean, making your hair or getting your self-care done. Yeah. So I was at the salon recently, and the mother received a call from her daughter at home, and what she heard wasn't favorable. And then shortly after, she hung up, and then conversations kicked off from there, where she was just lamenting. It just felt like she busted out because she didn't know exactly what to do. And then she had complained that her daughter had been a little bit laid back in the house, and she honestly doesn't even know what to do about it. The other woman just by my side now said the same thing, that she's also having her son having the same issues, and now that they are going back to school, she doesn't even know exactly how to deal with it. She doesn't exactly even know what the problem is. So the point is, they do not even know how to communicate with their children. They don't know exactly how to even bring them out to say exactly what the problem is. So they now had, like, people now started having conversations around that, just to the fact that, stemming to the fact that children are having issues, but then they do not even know how to help them, because they probably also have their own personal problems that they're going through. But these are their children. They are the primary caregivers. They're having issues. How do they deal with it? So, I mean, just to lay a foundation to this conversation. So could you even, let's start with you providing some insight to the rising concerns about anxiety and depression among teenagers today?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to start by saying the teenage age, as in a teenager, we all know basically teenagers are between the age of 13 to about 19. That's when a child hits adolescence. And one thing I would like to bring to fore that a lot of us seem not to understand is that a teenager is in a transition stage. Yeah. It's like in between childhood and adulthood. A teenager is developing, yep, brain-wise, but emotionally they haven't gotten to that place yet. And then this is somebody who just, I mean, once you were a small little baby, and then all of a sudden you start noticing changes in your body. Usually we would say that the teenage age is an age of change, is an age of growth, but it's also an age of disequilibrium, as in the teenagers go through, there's no balance. The reason there's no balance is this. This is someone who is being told, who is still a child, still expected to be a child, and also being told that, hey, you're grown up, you're big enough, you're old. When they come to us for certain things, we're like, why are you asking, why do you want this? You're already grown up. And then the child sits back and is like, I'm grown up. And then these thoughts come, I'm grown up, I should be independent. There are things I should be doing. And then they find out that they don't have that independence. They don't have it. So, I mean, they are at a stage where there's a lot of pressure on them. They are confused. And this could lead to a lot of anxiety. Another thing that has made it very prevalent these days is, while I was growing up, when we were growing up, you had the presence of mothers more in the house. I like to say that. Not that they were not doing anything. You understand? Some were not. But some were doing jobs that could give them enough time for their children. But these days, out of no fault of the mothers or the fathers, I mean, the economic situation is not smiling, and people have to go out of their way to upskill, get jobs, or do things that could make them make ends meet. And most of the time they are busy. Sometimes too busy to even pay attention to this growing person who is growing, who is confused, who has a lot of questions, but most times has no answers from the people who they see as their primary caregivers. A lot of times they are confused, and then they go out and get these answers from the wrong place. And you know, it's a teenage age, and the peer pressure is real because their friends, they look at those people as, we are experiencing the same things, you understand? So let's move together. Do you get? If mommy doesn't want to answer me or daddy doesn't give me an answer, I could get it from, this is John, he's my friend, and he understands. He too, your voice is getting deep, mine is getting deep. We're going through the same hormonal changes. And the answers you may seek that John would give you, the answers John will give you, he's also not emotionally developed. Most times are not okay, and they are not right. John is also as confused as you are. So one, I would say, the economic situation has contributed a lot to eroding the usual family values we had, the kind of closeness we had with our children. It's nobody's fault. It's not even our fault. But I mean, most times mothers are so busy. By the time you come home, then your teenager is disturbing you. You look at everything they do as they are disturbing you. That's the truth. Another thing is social media. Social media is really something that really does a lot of it, exerts pressure on the children these days, because they feel everybody wants to live a certain type of way. Every young person wants to be like a certain kind of person. You understand? The life, our kids these days, when we were younger, we didn't live our life on social media the way they do. Yeah, we were. I mean, in the past, there were other things that occupied time, but this age is one in which a lot of things are lived online. So the kind of life they see online influences a lot of their thinking. Sometimes some of them want to be certain things, and they're pressured, and then they are thinking that, they're pressured about life, they are pressured about everything. They think, sometimes they see life on social media, which may not actually be real, and they desire it for themselves. They can't get it, they are anxious, they are frustrated, and then sometimes it leads to them being depressed. Another thing, there are changes when a child gets to adolescence. A child is changing most of the time. By the time a child is in adolescent stages, he has definitely moved from primary school. A lot of times these days, because children are fast, adolescents are probably within the range of moving from probably, I would say, GS2, 3, they're going to senior school. So there's also the combination of academic stress on them. A lot of them cannot, if not, they're not properly guided, they may not be able to handle it. And then there's also bullying. Some of them get bullied as teenagers, and it makes them anxious. It destroys their self-esteem, and a lot of times there's nobody to talk to.
I mean, you've raised quite a number of concerns, about 4 concerns, which of course I can bear witness to the social media angle to it. I mean, they're more exposed in their time, more like in our time. We didn't have those kind of exposure, but and that's why I started with the fact that they live in a more dynamic world. I mean, but before we go into the solutions or how mothers can help their children address these concerns, what are the symptoms mothers should also look out for in their children? What are the simple symptoms you would see, or the signs you would see that, oh yeah, this child is actually getting really depressed or is anxious, or there are even other disorders that the child is probably going through?
Okay. One of the very early symptoms to look out for in a child is when, normally as parents, you should know the personality type of all your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, the type, you have the ones that are naturally quiet. You have the ones that are boisterous. One of the symptoms that clearly I think parents can see and spot is when you have a boisterous child, a child that is usually very playful and lively, suddenly withdrawing. A child who used to talk a lot suddenly becomes quiet. And it happens to a lot of people in teenage age, but parents are busy. Even when I said during our own time, we were not this social media, we still passed through this teenage blues. Because I can remember, for one, that as a child, I was very talkative. But when I started getting to teenage age, I became very withdrawn and quiet. I'll stay in the room alone. I wouldn't want to talk to anybody. And the child may be dealing with things, but you do not recognize it. You know, when a child starts to withdraw from family, starts to withdraw from friends, a child is unnecessarily anxious, starts to avoid certain places that they used to like to go to before. They suddenly start saying, I don't want to go. You understand? The child panics very, very easily. The child panics very easily. Then another very, when you see children that, another thing that parents don't take note, when you see a child that is always, I used to have a child that I dealt with. When you see a child that normally is very detailed in appearance, suddenly starts to keep himself looking very shabby, unkempt, it's a sign. It's a sign. It's not because suddenly that child got careless. You have to really look into it. It's a sign. This child starts looking shabby, doesn't care about how he looks. There's something going on. But most of the time, if you're too busy, you will not see it. Then when a child starts to want to self-harm, that's another sign that something is wrong.
But then how then can, before we take it to a professional angle, how then can mothers create a safe space or a safe environment for their children? Because quite a number of these issues stem from the fact that the children are not bold enough. They don't feel safe enough to open up to whoever is around them, say for their mothers, because mostly we would find out that is the mother that is prevalent and very available for them. But then again, they still cannot open up to their mothers to speak to them as to, oh, this is what I'm going through. Or sometimes they probably do not even know how to articulate how they are feeling. How can mothers create a safe space for their children such that they can be able to freely speak to them about their feelings?
Thank you. I think one thing is, in order for you to create a safe space for your child, you have to realize that when your child becomes a teenager, you have to start having conversations with them. And when I
why do we have to wait? Sorry for cutting. Why do we have to wait till they are teenagers? Why
no,
can't
you can have it earlier.
Yeah.
But you have to, when they become teenagers, it changes a little bit. Why I say it changes is the way I would converse with my 5-year-old is different from the way I would talk to my 13-year-old. Sure. My 5-year-old is still young, impressionable, he's growing up. At that age, I'm giving you a relationship, simply put, layman, is like a relationship of more like I show you tenderness, love, and give you mostly instructions. When a child gets to teenage age, you have to switch a little bit from being the instructive parent, giving rules, to being more like a friend to your child. Like, there has to be your relationship has to have some sort of collaboration. I don't know if that is the right word. You have to create this space where the child can come and talk to you. Let me give you an instance. A child comes and is like, is trying to tell you, mommy, maybe my friends, they went out, maybe they're taking some alcoholic drinks, and your first instance is, you went out, you want to take alcohol, do you know it's not good? You start with all those kind of things. The child will look and be like, okay, next time. I won't tell you. You understand? The child already, at that age, they know what to tell you. As in, basically, ask parents of most teenagers, find out from them when you ask your teenager a question most of the time, when they see that you give them that kind of vibe, if you ask them a question most of the time, how was this? Do you have anything to tell me? No. You understand? The only things they would probably tell you are things they know you would like to hear, like, okay, well, I want to buy this book. They study you, don't know the kind of parent you are. My mom or my dad likes academics. They talk to you along that line, and every other personal detail they keep to themselves or for their friends in school because of the way you have, how do I put it, the way you have responded to what they have said. As a parent, to create a safe space for your teenager, one of the first things that you must do is listen more than talk. You have to listen to them so that they can unburden their heart to you. And then another thing is, when they have issues and they come to you, don't give them, you can't give a teenager a quick solution to an issue. Don't always, I can solve it, or this is the solution. You have to talk through to that teenager like it's a bit of dealing with an adult and at the same time not dealing with an adult. What you give them is guidance, more like, not instructions, not like direct instruction. If you keep instructing them, they wouldn't talk to you the way they're supposed to.
Right. How about, let's now come to professional angle where you come in. We have professionals like you that deal with issues relating to this. At what point do you think that they should seek professional help? I mean, you've mentioned the fact that if we create guidance, prefer solutions, as opposed to being instructive and doing all of those things. I mean, if all of this doesn't work, these communication strategies does not work, do you think that it's at that point you now say, okay, let me seek professional help?
There's nothing wrong in seeking professional help, but I'd like to say this. I believe in being, I mean, you've already said it at the beginning of the program that we live in a dynamic world. Yeah. So I believe as parents, I believe in being proactive instead of being reactive. A lot of times, in this part of the world, we shy away from things like counseling, we shy away from things like therapy, we shy away from talking to somebody else about our problem. But I have seen it a lot of times in practice that sometimes children talk better to people that may not necessarily be their parents, but are professionals. So I would like to prefer or advocate that a child, even when the child is not presenting any funny symptoms, there's nothing wrong in making your child see a counselor at least once in a year. Even if it's a child that doesn't have any problems. I mean, who says the child doesn't need guidance in other areas? Must it be behavioral? What if the child is nice, okay, very straight-headed, but he doesn't know, he's confused about career. He's confused about, oh, I don't know what subject to take in school. You understand? And you don't want to force, and the child needs to talk to a professional. In my personal life, I've had to hand over my kids to people I know that are better than me when it comes to some certain areas. Because you cannot be perfect in anything. My 13-year-old son will tell you, nobody's perfect. You cannot be. When you ask him some questions, because sometimes I'll be like, what do you think about the way I parent you? And he's like, oh, it's okay. Nobody can be perfect. Oh, wow. You understand? So you understand? You have to, you have to sometimes employ, in fact, not sometimes, most of the time, you can't do everything yourself. So I actually advocate for preventive. If it's possible to get your children, it's even possible to get them to counsel once a year, if you can. It's good even for professional counselors. It has been noticed and found out that you can't even be the one to counsel your child sometimes. You would have to give that job to somebody else to do. Then coming to a case where the child is already has issues. He already has, there's something wrong with his mental health already. He has a disorder, he has a mental illness. There are professionals that people go to. There are professional children, teen coaches, professional therapists available in Nigeria. I am one person who works in that space. Then we have organizations where you go to and you can get professional therapists. One of such organizations is ANEPCO. That's an association of, it's a West African Association for Counselors. You have CASON, the Counseling Association of Nigeria. The reason I advocate these places is that when you get there, you get people that are trained in this field. I'm not talking about going to social media, you see somebody and the person says, you just see the person and the person says, I'm a child counselor, and you go and put your destiny in the hands of such people. No. You go to associations like this because the counselors there have been schooled, they've gone through proper formal training, and they know how to handle your children's cases at any point in time. At any point in time where there are lapses. They even know more than what they see, what you cannot see when they speak to your child, because they are professionals.
You're right. Now, we've spoken so much about the children and how mothers should devote enough time for their children to notice all of these things. And of course, it helps them, it builds them up to when they become adults. I also think that it is important for the woman or for the mother to be in a mentally balanced position for them to be able to function properly. Now, how can mothers also, ensure that they are mentally balanced such that they would be able to help or prefer solutions to their children?
When we talk about mothers, a mother is somebody who wears a lot of hats in the house. You're taking care of your children a lot of times, especially in our society. You're taking care of your children. You're not just taking care of your children, you're taking care of your husband, you're taking care of your home. And a lot of times we're not taking care of ourselves. For a mother, I think for you to be able to function properly and for you to be able to handle your teenager's mental health, you also must be balanced, not just mentally, even physically. So I would say that first and foremost, sleep is very essential. You must get a reasonable amount of sleep as an individual so that you can function properly. You must get a reasonable amount of sleep, at least nothing less than 6 hours, really. Because if you sleep too little, you wouldn't be sharp enough to function. Then we should take care of our physical health, because when you're bringing up teenagers, you need energy, really. We should take care of our physical health, regular checkups, eat properly and eat healthy, exercise. Then mentally, we should do things that would make us happy. We should have there should be times when you should have those me times to yourself, when you do something that you really like. If what you like doing is going to the spa, it makes you feel better, that's your own safe space. Do it. If you want to watch a movie or you want to read a book, you should do it, so that you should do something that rejuvenates you, so that when you are rejuvenated, you'll be able to handle the children. Because if you are not, the only thing you succeed in doing is when the child comes to you with a problem, you will shout and you will grumble and you will do everything, and then everywhere is scattered. And then we should try and arm ourselves with information. That was something I forgot to mention as parents. You should try and arm yourself with information. When your teenager sees you're an informed parent, they are more inclined to talk to you. We shouldn't shy away from going for things like your kids called your kids' school call a PTA meeting. You should attend PTA meetings. They're so important. When you go for PTA meetings, when you go for open days, there are things you don't know about your children that you will find out. That's the truth. There are things that when you go for open days and they tell you your child is, you'll be like, the same child I live with in the house. Then another thing is, as mothers too, you take time out, go out with your friends, do things that will make you happy.
Yeah.
You should be happy.
Because they say that a happy mom, a happy mother is a happy home.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good way to wrap up today's conversation. It was great speaking with you on how mothers can help their teenage children prevent anxiety and teenage and depression, and of course also take care of themselves while doing that. It was great speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Great being here. Thank you.
And that's how we wrap up on today's conversation on how mothers can handle and help their teenage children prevent anxiety and depression with Ani Akhigbe, teenage children and mental health counselor. I hope mothers have been able to take notes and help their children do better, and of course help themselves also do better. If you'd like to follow us on our social media platforms, please see the links below on the screen. And to read more on the financial news, log on to www.proshare.co to get more updates on the financial space. And on that note, I end today's conversation. I am Ayomide Oguntoye. Thank you for watching.